Hi, Elsa. Hi. Welcome to 8th International Uşak Short Film Festival. We're delighted to have you, especially as an Asian premiere with such a cool movie. Let me first tell you my little bit of what I feel about the movie. By the way, I am not technically from cinema. I am a biologist who is mostly doing wildlife biology and a writer. So your movie starts, although it starts with a map with somebody kind of dealing with measurements, it's still because probably that scene also doesn't seem so very maths or anything because of the visuals. Generally, your movie makes us go with the flow with the nature. We don't feel the camera much. The camera is humbly used, and it's like it doesn't want to make us feel it. So we are just connected to the nature and all the sounds of the bugs and the frogs so I really like that feeling, because in wildlife documentaries sometimes there's so much knowledge and we just are tangent to the serenity of the nature, its own connection to us. So I really found it very strong in that sense. But it is also more emphasized on it that there is no info, or there is info, but the way it is delivered is we first maybe see some of the things are in the news, like the bugs, but then we get the most info in a way, in the most sincere, nicest, warmest way, when these two women talk about the salmons, because the way they talk, they're obviously not scientists. They're just, and one of them probably since childhood, she explains, has this love for them, and she just explains it to you, and we're eavesdropping to them, and we don't see any salmon. We're just having the salmon story through somebody who loves them and even calls them psycho and stuff. It is more powerful than a scientific sentence, perhaps. So these are all what I really loved about it, that I can say initially. And then probably you decided on all these kind of storytelling because of your motivation. So what was your motivation, and what was about Mississippi Delta that you wish us to know?
But first, thank you so much for having me, and I'm very happy to show the film and to be discussing with you today. And thank you for what you say about the film. It's, to me, very accurate. And I think what I was interested in the first time is because I went for the first time in the Mississippi Delta 10 years before making the film. So it was a bit by chance. I was not like there to with the idea of making a film. But I met a lot of people, and some of the people that are in the film, I've known them for 11 years, especially Alana, the girl that is saying this, the woman that is saying this story about the salmons, for example. And I think, so after that, I did a lot of research on the Delta, on the history of the Delta, and specifically on the history of the landscape of the Delta, how it was built, about the infrastructure. And I did a lot of research on the mapping history of the Delta. But then I think what I was interested in what in this geography was kind of like resisting to the wheel of control. So also everything that was impossible to map in a way. So everything that the tools we have couldn't really make us see through the scientific tools. And I was interested in like bringing people in between the line of the maps, between the water and the land, where where maybe like we can say stories in a different way, with like a lot of like living beings, animals, humans, insects that inhabit this kind of space. Mm-hmm. And I was in my filmmaking work, I never want to make like, I'm not into like essay films or like very didactic, but I try to find in the cinema itself ways of like sharing some kind of like knowledge, but in the cinematic way. So more in the experience of the film and in the space that I leave to the people that work with me. So all the people, yeah. So this story, for example, I really liked the way she's saying it, but also I was just recording it, and it happened, and then I kept it even. Yeah.
You mean the salmon story, right?
Yeah, the salmon story. Yeah.
That's really very, very, so very nice, because we always see salmons jumping, salmon and the bear, and then all of a sudden we hear their story with somebody maybe who is even little high on, maybe drinking a little bit and just really having fun with a friend, and is as if it's a bonfire and we're there. It's like it's so sincere environment, and all this the articulation of it, and etc. Okay, but as a scientist myself, and I just don't like some things about science and scientists, and also my husband is Native American. He's from Tlingit tribe, and I lived in States like 6 years, and so one scene in your movie explains so much to me. Maybe if people didn't have my experiences or knowledge on US, maybe wouldn't understand the scene where he's measuring. I don't know if it's them, your first man who is doing the map, measuring, and there's a black man sitting. That scene, because in that scene, the white scientist is turned back to the black, never faces the black scientist, meaning there's so much in white science that people ignore. They don't look at the indigenous knowledges or black knowledges, other cultures' knowledges, and there's so much to measure, there's fixed borders. And I have, if you allow me, I have one experience, a bad one, that really fits this scene. I would like to tell you, because I'll tell you very short. When in Alaska, we were in a whale talk about whale, and we were questioning why this whale in winter is still in Alaska, and etc. etc. So we're all locals. My husband raised his hand and said his commentary about why the whale could be there, and people behind him just like they told, what would you know? Like they're still saying such things. Plus, I would nearly say then, well, it is not like there's taxonomy and measurement. It's not like just because you know what species or whatever, like white man, you did the taxonomy. It doesn't mean you conserved it, you protected it. Then we can have a debate like that. But this is really still happening. And I looked a little bit in Mississippi Delta's history. I saw a lot of problems that Black people lived. So that scene really explains a lot. And I didn't catch it in the first watching. I only caught it because I was going to make this question and Q&A, which was a good thing for me, because then I realized it's so important, because the back, never seen the face to face, it tells a lot. So what did you intend to do with that scene?
Yeah, I think to me this character, maybe I can explain first how I feel about this first character. So to me, the as a French person also, and like the first maps of the Mississippi were made by French cartographers sent like as a colonial sent by the King of France to make the first maps, and the first maps were the first tools to occupy, and then to build in first infrastructures for the Mississippi to become a road, like a commercial road. So to me, I was with this first character that goes from the past till the present, but also seems always a bit lost, and but also really measuring. It was like kind of like drawing a causality line from these first maps till this very big infrastructure. And the scene that you're talking about was very, very important to me, like this moment, because exactly is like still measuring, but also with very poor tool with only his hand. So there is something almost a bit absurd with this character. And this man that was there and that I was talking with, and we were discussing, and then I was asking him if he was okay. This black man, if he was okay to act in the film, to be in the film. And so it was an idea that I had, but he was really the good person, because we had a long discussion about the change of like the landscape around, and he was saying that he was coming there very often. And so we had a very long discussion, and the day after we decided to shoot together and to have like this moment where he was more facing the landscape, and this person, this character was almost like all the history of like infrastructure to me, but only obsessed with like measuring and not even looking at we talked about it very well, so I feel like I'm just like
but as I said, I even didn't realize in the first though, because I didn't know who is sitting there as black or whatever. I'm not looking at it like that in the first. Sometimes when I'm doing this Q&As, I really realize that second, third watch of movies is very important. I wish everybody has the chance to do that. You get more of the movies, or else this gets a little bit less as if we are consuming it. Now, I'm a little worried because we started late. Are we going to be cut in half an hour thing because we lost 10 minutes? But so I'll do it like by more important questions first, like all right, I think I'm going to ask you this. I checked that you are teaching landscape theory. You studied architecture along with arts, right?
Yeah, I studied. I studied architecture, and I worked as an architect. And I was teaching at this time. And then a couple of years after, I entered a postgraduate program in contemporary art and cinema. And so that's when I started making films 6 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, because when I looked at your website, I thought this sentence about your intentions, about your themes in your documentaries or your films, it said like focus on forces of resistance in contemporary landscapes. I am curious about it. Can you give an example, or is it anything you could say about maybe Sweat along the lines of this?
As I said, I think what I was really interested in is like this. So as an architect, I'm interested in like the history of the landscape, how they were built, and also the political history, like how like especially like modernity like tried to control and to in a very capitalist way, like to control and to organize and to make the landscape productive. And I think what in Sweat, I'm always interested in what resists to that. So to me, like the whole Mississippi Delta in a way is like resisting to that. So if you, for example, I think it's mostly about like that's what happened in the first part of the film, when we see it ends like this character that you were talking about that is measuring ends up in this in this huge dam that was open at this moment, and there is a whole series of dam along the Mississippi Delta and along the Mississippi in all Louisiana, because the idea like has been to like having the Mississippi is a river that moves a lot, and at another point in the film we see this map, and there is this dog going up on the map and like so this map is a map that was made in 1940, and it's a map that I'm really interested in my work, like even outside of Sweat, because you see all the different beds of the river from different times, and you see it looks like a muscle, it's like something very organic, and you see how the river is like not a canal, but it's like the Mississippi is a river that have always been moving. And then there was like some decision making to like have it staying like straight, like on the same bed, just so it can be exploited more. And
okay.
so yeah, so to me there was something, but the river is still like moving and like going up, and there's all this like life in there that is kind of like resisting
Yeah.
this bit of, yeah.
Maybe a little bit like the bug scene, because the bug scene was so interesting, because lately, I don't know if you've seen it, people were sharing a caricature where the car's windshield shows in 80s and 2020, there is no bugs dying, because there's no bugs. So there's no bugs dying on the windshield. And then in your movie, it talks about how sometimes in nature things can go so explode, like the numbers of bugs. Maybe it was the flooding time. Was it when it flooded that happened?
Yeah, the river was very high at this moment. Yeah.
So that, yeah, because bugs, yeah, okay. So in a sense, in your movie, you use a couple times the word fragile, even with salmon. But in my opinion, salmon are both fragile because of the water systems you explained. There's no rain, but they're also very strong. So nature is both strong, fragile, and what's the word? They can explode, things can go, what's the word? It's not certain, like uncertainty can happen. So in your movie, it's like many things are briefly touched, but because it's strongly touched, it gets to you. But as I said, I just wish more people watch it more than one time. I really had more, I just found out more stuff in my second watch. So maybe I look forward to, for example, also couldn't watch your Love Canal or something. I don't know, maybe there is some place I couldn't find, and I don't like watching fragments because then it affects my perception. But I'll look for them, because I thought as if you still have the abandoned buildings, as if that's also a theme in at least these two things I checked. There was a little bit about the abandoning a place. I'm sorry, I got a little excited because of the time we lost, but I think we're fine, because if we have 40 minutes, then it is now not okay. I think we're fine. But do you want to say anything of what I just said? I thought we were okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then all right. I also wonder, why did you call it sweat? That I didn't understand. So I didn't understand. Okay.
But to me, I think I was interested. The whole film like talks about like water, or like we're driven by water. Like if it's like the water from the bottles that the girls are like putting in the model that goes.
Yeah.
So not only like it's the river, but it's all kind of water. And I was very interesting. To me, the sweat is like this kind of like water that is man-made also. So it's also like all the work that when it's like it's a natural water, but it's a water like human-made water, like something like that, so liquid. So I was interested in that, in how in the river you have like all the man history also that is driven in the same water as the water system.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I could have got there, because before doing Q&As, I sometimes get so excited, because it's not just only what am I going to ask. Sometimes I have so much to say, and I have to shorten myself, because I'm a writer. I see a lot of things, and then I have to choose which one is probably, because I also feel for you. Maybe you're talking in many festivals, maybe the same questions come. So I try to think of maybe different whatever, but it's not sometimes.
Yeah, it's great actually. I'm very happy we are having this talk.
Yeah, thank you. And when I was looking at your website, I was so glad I looked, because now I am so much looking forward to your film, Les Sangliers, Wild Boars. I was like, wild boars as allies in anti-capitalist struggle. It's like, I'm so curious about it. I saw the drawing with that Freya, the woman, and there's a bat even on it, and I'm so interested in such topics. And also because lately we have a wild boar problem in my hometown where I live now. They started coming to places they didn't used to come, and recently, I don't know, like a couple months ago, they came to some places and they digged up many in many parts that is normally, you know, borders and everything. So I immediately thought of that, because they are like, they really do their own thing, and they're so powerful, and they really can do great harm to your structures. So I thought, so I don't know, is there any tidbits you could give to us before we watch your next? Is it done yet, or is it finished?
No, we did. So it's a film that I'm producing. Is like there are going to be many a couple shootings, like three different moments of shootings. So we had like one first shooting in September, and there is an edit of a video loop that is now in an exhibition in Montpellier, in the Contemporary Art Museum of Montpellier. So but I live in the countryside in south of France, where there are a lot of wild boars also, and I got very interesting in them. Actually, to me, they are linked to this idea of like of forces of resistance in the landscape, because in the region where I live, in the 20-30 last years, there are more and more like borders and like fences, and a lot of like privatization of like the space. And so this film like looks at the history of private property from the proto-capitalists, like the end of the commons, and so the first like really laws, like very private property laws in the medieval modern times, and so seeing the wild boars just like destroying like fences, and like also living at night in some kind of like gangs at night.
You're right.
Also
they're like gangs. Yes.
So I like the idea of like a nocturnal gang, like making their way the way they want in the landscape, and also like really working against this idea of private property. And
it's good luck with it. I hope everything goes smoothly and the way you like it. And I am so looking forward to watching it. And now maybe as the last something, because as I said, we might be cut abruptly. I don't want to be cut abruptly. Maybe the last thing I'm going to say is, because the first scene starts with the man from the t-shirt he wears is as if it's the old time, but again, in the first watch I didn't understand that, but afterwards now I understand it like that. It reminded me that if we didn't have this much and horrible kind of habitat loss by buildings and roads, and some of them are horrible, all these going on, the structures, man-made structures, when you find a place where in the vicinity there's nothing man-made, then you feel as if you can even connect with history better, because it was just exactly the same. Maybe something's okay, for sure different, but I mean, like sometimes we have some ancient theaters in Turkey, and the ones that faces the sea, I always feel this. I sit in those seats, and I feel maybe somebody years ago again see this the same thing. And so I'm sad, and I'm fearful that this much of structures, I couldn't say the normal name in ecology, this much of buildings, this much of, it's going to make us also lose our very precious touch with nature. So what is there something you would like to say about this? Because architecture and maybe
actually very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting, because in Louisiana, in the landscape that the first shot actually of the film that opens with this character that is actually linked to this first French cartographer named Guillaume de Lille that did the first precise map of the Delta. And when we see him walking on the back, we have like these trees, that dead trees, that is, so he's in this landscape, and with the shirt, we can think he's like, we are in the 18th century or something. But then this landscape that is on the back is very contemporary, because it's all the trees that died because of the salted water that came up, because the landscape changed, and the salty water came up in the swamp, which was like a freshwater environment. And so what I think is interesting in Louisiana is that you don't even have like the building and then the nature, like the ancient nature, but all the landscape have been like formed and deformed and changed by the exploitation that is sometimes like underground or like that. Or so even if you don't see the infrastructure, the landscape you see it changed so much in the last century that maybe that's what I could share about that.
Yeah, but it is really, I really think that if I go back to the beginning, if some people watches documentaries like yours, like this one, not much lecture, but just makes us realize we have so much connection with nature. Be it, you can, some scientists can use this language, and this woman uses this, and the bugs and good and bad in nature. I think it's better than this new era. Everybody is worried about nature, but some of them, because there's so much very, but in this kind of documentaries, at least there is no nothing in the middle, and we just feel first. We have to feel, and everybody can feel that connection with nature. We're not necessarily losing, we are maybe losing something, but it's not like many scientists think that some people don't have it. I believe that most people have some connection with nature. It's just that they don't maybe realize it, and maybe they don't know as I said, the species or whatever. But sometimes it doesn't matter that we know so much. We just, the feeling, the connection. And so I hope with your kind of documentaries, we'll always have the feeling of how close we are to nature, how it's important to us. And so thanks to you and your team for making such a powerful documentary. And it was really, as I said, we're thrilled that we're going to be making the Asian premiere, because it should reach more people. So merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Okay, and it was nice meeting with you, even virtually.
Thank you so much for all your precise remarks and questions. It means a lot to me.
I'm happy to hear that. And hopefully in the future we'll have maybe that wild boar movie, if you're gonna. I am very excited about it. Good luck with it again. Bye. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Elsa. Bye.